Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. It's Monday morning, the 31st day of July. Where has the year gone? We keep chugging along here. August begins tomorrow, and that means we're only a few weeks away from the first Republican debate for the presidential candidates. Good Lord, Julie Gunlock, time is flying.
It is.
And this morning is flying along. In the next 2 hours, we're going to get a lot done, including a conversation at 7:35 with Nell Gardner from Heritage Foundation, and at 8:05, our pal Gabby Hoffman, Independent Women's Forum. But right now, it's Joe time. Joe diGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Joe, every time we begin our conversations on Monday mornings, I feel like I need to ask if this is the Justice Department you remember working in. I mean, did you ever do a Saturday filing asking for the arrest of a key witness in a congressional hearing the following Monday? That seems a little odd.
Yeah, it's not only odd, it's purposeful. And it is, remember, this letter to the judge was in the Southern District of New York. And that is the U.S. Attorney's Office that has become known as the Biden Protection Office. Whoever knows anything about the Biden family and has evidence against them is either prosecuted by the Southern District to shut them up or investigated by the Southern District to put the fear of God in them, or has a search warrant executed at their house to obtain non-existent evidence. That was quite brazen. And the word for all of this is brazen. What you are watching is a brazen attempt to interfere with the legal process, which they control. This is fascinating. They are so frightened of what might happen, that Devin Archer might say under sworn testimony, that even though they control the legal process and his fate, they need to up it just to make it clear how much they control the legal process. The Department of Justice now does not exist. The statute which established it no longer exists. The people who work there should be ashamed of themselves. Not one whistleblower out of the Justice Department over anything. That will tell you how corrupt the main justice between 9th and 10th on Constitution in Pennsylvania is, independence and Constitution is.
Yeah.
This place, you are living in a cesspool. It is now beyond doubt. And by the way, the fact that Devin Archer is going to show up today is the end of any proof that should be necessary for any observer. The people in the press forget about it. After watching those idiots talk about Devin Archer over the weekend and the president, is pretty embarrassing. You've given earlier the sequence of statements by the Bidens about their relationship with Hunter.
Yeah.
Don't know anything, never heard anything, never discussed business, never been in business. The tutorial from them about their relationship with their son is like a Rorschach test. But here's the thing. Devin Archer doesn't have to say one thing except, yes, I was there, and yes, Joe Biden was on phone calls. That's it. It doesn't matter what Joe Biden said or didn't say. When you're the son of the vice president and you get the vice president on the phone, that's the end of it.
Game over.
That's the influence. That's the deliverable.
Yep.
That's it. That's the production. The deliverable is Joe's on the line.
Yep. Let's be clear here. That's what the law says. You don't have to prove that any policy was affected by that phone conversation. Merely having the phone call is the crime.
That is correct. And the deliverable was Joe. And everybody knows it. And that's why I think that Republicans are making a terrible mistake by broadcasting what they expect Devin Archer to say. It doesn't matter what he says, except for the one thing. Was the vice president at the time on phone calls with Hunter Biden and business associates? Yes or no? End of interrogation. Let's let the Democrats get into the nonsense. This is so fundamental, so easy, so for a prosecutor. And the corruption is that the evidence now is so stark that Joe Biden and Hunter and the rest of his family were engaged in a massive conspiracy and a plot to extort money from foreign governments, foreign entities, and foreign individuals in exchange for the delivery of policy initiatives. It is beyond question anymore. And the notion you can have somebody like this idiot, Chuck Todd, say, well, you know what they're going to do? They're going to try and show this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. Poor Chuck. Poor Chuck. You know what? He's really not very bright, because if you were smart, you wouldn't want to look so stupid.
Joe, a Mar-a-Lago worker is going to be appearing in court today. Carlos de Oliveira I feel so bad for this guy, because his life is going to change. What do you expect from him? And again, is this just another case of intimidation?
Well, it's pretty clear that Jack Smith, in conjunction with the Justice Department, is doing things so as to take pressure off of President Biden from the ongoing congressional investigation. So any pretense that this is legitimate is totally phony. It doesn't even matter what the facts are for Mr. Oliveira. It doesn't even matter, because he is unnecessary to the case against Donald Trump. They already have 37 counts. Now they have 40. What was the purpose of that? The purpose was very clear. It was to interfere in the ongoing story about the Bidens and about Joe Biden and about Hunter Biden and about Devin Archer. There are no coincidences anymore in this case or any related cases. I feel very sorry for Mr. Oliveira. He's a pawn, and he's being used by a very sick man, Jack Smith. You know what? There used to be an Italian criminologist who used to say you could tell if someone was a criminal by the shape of their skull. Now, those theories have all been debunked. Jack Smith is bringing them back. Take one look at him, and you are looking at a very sick dude.
But Joe, he likes Subway sandwiches.
A man of the people.
Oh, he's a man of the people. No question about it. I mean, and here's the thing. He watched them slice the meat and counted the slices to make sure he got what he was entitled to.
Joe, Liz, I don't want to drop the Devin Archer thing, because this is a big story today. It's going to develop later this afternoon. Can you stick with me? Because I got a couple more questions about that, and again about what the Justice Department clearly attempted to do over the weekend. Can you stick with us for one more segment?
Even Joe Biden has thoughts about the Vince Colonnese show.
What a stupid son of a...
Join us on the next one, 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
Hard to disagree with that. We continue now with former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Joe diGenova. Joe, once again, just to reset here, Hunter Biden's former business partner, who was already headed to jail for one issue involving a Native American tribe and some deliverables that the Biden-Archer team violated the law with. Devin Archer is set to testify before the House Oversight Committee today to corroborate a lot of the things that have already been said about Hunter Biden's business dealings and how it relates to Joe Biden. Over the weekend, the Justice Department does a filing where they want Devin Archer to surrender himself to authorities, basically be arrested, which would preclude him from testifying. Now, again, within 24 hours of outrage, they said, oh, no, you're misunderstanding. We never want to do that. Everything's... Do you anticipate something happening today? What's stopping DOJ from sending the FBI or U.S. Marshals to the Cannon office building and wait for Devin Archer to show up and arrest him right there?
Well, nothing is stopping them, certainly not the mainstream media. And so you never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. We are living in a very, very strange world, which has been turned upside down by President Biden, Merrick Garland, and Christopher Wray. And the reason you can ask that question and do it with a straight face and not think that you're saying something silly about the FBI is that everything that you never thought could happen has already happened. And so why not have the FBI further degrade its respect in the eyes of the American people by doing the bidding of the Emperor Biden? Yeah. I mean, the truth is, the Biden family has become so brazen, and that's the word for them, by the way, brazen. Just like it was a brazen plot against Donald Trump starting in 2016, this is a brazen plot by the Bidens themselves to corrupt the entire U.S. federal criminal justice system And don't think for a moment that they wouldn't stoop to some low like you just wondered out loud might happen. I don't think it's going to happen because even now, I still don't think they're that stupid.
Right.
But you know something? They've managed to disappoint me every step of the way.
Well, and partly because there have been no, I mean, you mentioned the media, and of course you're right, but there have been no other kinds of repercussions for any other brazen actions. Everything that we've learned from Russian collusion, nobody got fired, nobody got reprimanded, nobody got arrested, nobody went to jail. So why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they continue? Because there are never, the only repercussion we have is congressmen pounding the table during a hearing and writing an angry letter.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why Kevin McCarthy's statement the other day that he was contemplating an impeachment inquiry, not an impeachment proceeding, but an impeachment inquiry was important because that's all they have. And if they don't use that power, they're going to waste an opportunity. They can't worry about whether or not Mitt Romney or Mitch McConnell or some other non-entity in the Senate doesn't like the way it looks. This isn't about the way it looks. We have the most corrupt president in the history of our country, along with a complicit corrupt family dealing with him to serve as a literal kickback scheme for a number of years, both as a senator, a vice president, and a president that we have ever had in the history of the country. It's not even a close question anymore. Yeah. And as I said, just remember, the only thing that matters today, it doesn't matter one whit what Devin Archer says, except, yes, Joe Biden was on those calls. That's it. That's the end of the inquiry. Case closed. It's time to go full impeachment inquiry. And by the way, when the Comer Committee gets evidence of overseas bank accounts in the Caribbean owned by the Biden family, there will be no turning back at that point.
Wouldn't it be great if that's what the proceeding was today? They swear Archer in, and they ask two questions. Was Joe Biden on phone calls with your clients from Burisma, from Ukraine, from China, whatever? He says, yes, sir, he was. Did Joe Biden attend any meetings or take personal meetings when he stopped by Cafe Milano or what have you? Was that for your client? Yes, sir, it was. And then say, okay, thank you very much, Mr. Archer. We now move to the impeachment phase of this hearing. Yes. Really? I mean, that's it. That's all they need.
That's all they need as far as I'm concerned. And the icing on the cake would be a third question. Mr. Archer, are you aware of any overseas accounts held by anybody in the Biden family where these millions of dollars were sent by foreign entities?
Joe, one last question here, because, again, the Justice Department, they were backpedaling like somebody covering Jerry Rice in his heyday back in the 49ers' great Super Bowl runs over this letter that they sent. Was that letter, though, in and of itself enough to say this is an obstruction situation? Just merely by putting out the letter. You don't actually have to bring Devin Archer into custody, but the fact that they put the letter out there and attempted to do it, that's obstruction of an official proceeding, if not obstruction of outright justice, isn't it?
If I were in charge in the House, I would declare it so. What you just said is absolutely correct. That was intended to intimidate Devin Archer. It was intended to influence his testimony. It is a crime. That letter, even though it was done under color of law, and they can say, listen, we're allowed to send letters on this. Yeah, well, why'd you send it on Saturday? What was the big deal on Saturday? What was so important that had to go out? Why did that go out on a Saturday? The answer is clear. Everybody knows it. It was intended to intimidate Devin Archer. That's obstruction of justice. That's a crime. But we have a totally compromised Attorney General and FBI Director, and nothing will come of it because the Southern District of New York controls the Justice Department in Washington.
Giuseppe diGenova, it's always enlightening every Monday morning. You make our week stronger because of your presence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's 7:23.